March 18, 1944. 2,000 meters above the frozen fields west of Vitebsk, Belarus. The sky is a dull steel gray, heavy with low clouds that smother the morning sun. Wind scours the snow-covered forests below in pale ghost lines. At low altitude, the air is thick, brutal, and unforgiving. Perfect killing ground. Engine noise rattles across the white wasteland in uneven pulses. Two Messerschmitt Bf 109 G6 fighters slice eastward, their noses tipped slightly down, hunting. Frost trails off their wings like cigarette smoke. Inside the lead aircraft, Oberleutnant Karl-Heinz Reuter, age 26, veteran of 142 Eastern Front victories, scans the gray void with cold confidence. Born in Dresden, former engineering student, the Luftwaffe's kind of golden boy. His oxygen mask rasps with every breath. His gloved thumb taps the cannon's safety switch, habit, not fear. Below him, his wingman, Lieutenant Erich Volkmann, barely 20, follows tight and nervous. First winter on the Russian front, still counting missions, still learning that the snow hides everything, still believing the stories. "They're only yaks," Reuter said during briefing. "Wood and canvas, built by peasants. Stay fast. You'll be home by lunch." That confidence still lives in his voice as the radio crackles in his ear. "Leader, nothing on my side. Visibility poor." Reuter smiles thinly behind the mask. "That's when they come." Below them, invisible in the haze, 4 Soviet fighters are climbing hard from treetop level. Yak-9Ds of the 191st Fighter Aviation Regiment. They do not roar like German engines. Their Klimov VK-105 PF motors snarl low and steady, vibrating through wooden frames reinforced with steel spars. The Yaks are not beautiful. They are not elegant. They are brutally practical. In the lead Soviet cockpit, Senior Lieutenant Alexei Morozov, age 23, son of a tractor mechanic from Saratov, holds his climb at the razor's edge of stall. Oil temperature is high. Manifold pressure is near redline. The climb burns his fuel like a torch. His gloves are stiff with cold sweat. Morozov's thoughts are not heroic. They are of his mother's hands, cracked from cold. Of the letter he never answered. Of German bombs on the Volga. Then the radio whispers, "Targets above. 2, sun side." Morozov tilts his head just enough. He sees the silver needles of the Messerschmitts slicing through the gray. The Germans never see the Yaks rising beneath them. The Yak-9D is not fast on paper. At altitude, it is outclassed. But below 3,000 meters, it is a predator. Light, vicious, climbing like a dagger thrown upward. Its firepower is centered in the nose. A single 20mm Schwack cannon firing through the propeller hub, synchronized, devastatingly accurate. 2 heavy machine guns flank it, but it is the cannon that kills aces. The Soviets do not fan out. They stack vertically. Discipline born of desperation. Morozov's airspeed dips to 210 kilometers per hour, dangerously slow. The engine shudders at the edge of flameout. He shoves the throttle forward 1 last centimeter. The Yak explodes upward. At 300 meters below Reuter's tail, Morozov selects cannon. Thumb tightens. Reuter first senses danger as instinct, not sight. The air behind him changes. A single Schwack round tears through the right elevator. The Messerschmitt jerks violently. "Attack! Brake!" Reuter shouts, rolling hard left as more tracers rise through his wake. Volkmann never finishes his warning. Morozov's second burst punches directly through the Bf-109's oil cooler. Black fluid sprays across the German windshield like ink. The engine seizes mid-roll. The aircraft snaps into a flat spin. Volkmann does not scream. His burning fighter vanishes into the low cloud. Reuter claws altitude in a vertical spiral, compressor howling, coolant boiling. He finally spots the attacker, a stocky green-gray yak climbing straight after him, absurdly close. A yak, he mutters in disbelief. The Soviet fighters should not be there. Not at that climb angle, not at that speed. But it is. Morozov's airspeed needle wavers near stall again. The yak trembles violently. The nose shakes. He does not blink. One gun, one angle, one breath. He fires. The 20mm shell detonates inside the Messerschmitt's engine block. The Daimler-Benz power plant rips free from its mounts in a bloom of flame and shattered cowling. Reuter's aircraft breaks in half in midair. The feared ace never ejects. For a single heartbeat, the sky is silent again, just drifting debris and falling fire. The remaining German pilot dives for the deck in blind panic, abandoning altitude, abandoning formation, abandoning pride. Behind him, the other three yaks split and pursue like wolves unleashed. On the snow below, Red Army troops watch the burning pieces fall out of the clouds, slow and unreal, trailing black smoke that stains the pale earth. By noon, German intelligence will report 2 aircraft lost to surprise low-altitude interception, enemy identified as Yak-9. By evening, the mess hall laughter will be quieter, because the wooden fighter they mocked is no longer missing. It is hunting them, and the Eastern Front is about to learn. The yak is no longer prey. March 18th, 1944. 40 kilometers east of Vitebsk. Soviet forward airstrip carved from ice and mud. The Yak-9s land one by one on the frozen strip, their narrow wheels skidding slightly before catching. Mechanics run alongside with blocks of wood and shouted warnings. The engines cough, settle, then die in clouds of steam. Morozov lifts his goggles. His face is pale, lips cracked from cold, eyes burning with a strange mixture of exhaustion and disbelief. His hands shake only now, only after the killing is done. 2 confirmed kills in under 90 seconds. The ground crew does not cheer. They simply nod. This is not a miracle. This is the new normal. Inside a drafty wooden operations shack, Major Ivan Sokolov, commander of the 191st Regiment, studies the map with a finger stained by ink and tobacco. He is 41, Kharkov-born. His left leg never healed right from a crash in 42. He does not waste words. They still think we are slow, he says. Tomorrow, they will think we are lucky. He finally looks up at Morozov. And the day after that, Sokolov says quietly, they will be afraid. The Yak-9 sitting outside on the ice does not look like a terror weapon. Its skin is rough in places, plywood patched with fresh lacquer. The paint is mismatched from field repairs. But under the cowling is a tuned VK-105PF, pushing more power than its German pilots expect at this altitude. The aircraft is lighter than earlier Yaks, stripped of excess weight, refined for exactly this airspace, low, fast, brutal. A mechanic named Sergei Petrov, 18 years old, orphan from Leningrad, wipes blood from a nick on the propeller's leading edge. He whispers to the metal as he works, as if it can hear him. March 19th, 1944. Luftwaffe forward base near Orsha. The mood is wrong. The pilots sit stiffly on wooden benches, helmets on knees. The laughter from yesterday is gone. Maps cover the walls, red grease pencil lines crawling steadily west. Hauptmann Dieter Kruger, Staffelkapitän of JG-54, stands before them. 32 years old, veteran of Poland, France, Britain, Russia. 48 confirmed victories, scar across his jaw from a Spitfire round. 2 aircraft lost yesterday, Kruger says. No warning, no dive. They climbed straight into our formation. Murmurs ripple through the room. One pilot scoffs weakly. Yaks can't climb like that. Kruger fixes him with a hard stare. They can now. Aerial reconnaissance photos slide across the table. New Yak variants on muddy strips, longer fuselage, heavier nose. The Russians have stopped climbing to meet us at 20,000 feet, Kruger continues. They wait, below the clouds. Then they rise under our bellies. He taps the photograph once. They are hunting where we are weakest. The briefing ends without humor, without boasts. Outside, ground crews load fresh belts of 20mm and 13mm ammunition into the Messerschmitts. The metallic clatter carries far in the cold air. No one sings. April 2nd, 1944. Low altitude over the Berezina River, 400 meters. Fog crawls thick over the water like breath from a sleeping animal. Soviet armor columns inch along hidden dirt roads below. The Germans have sent fighters to strafe. Kruger leads 4 Bf-109s in at 480 kilometers per hour, throttles wide, engines howling. The river flashes silver beneath them. Then the fog breaks upward. 4 Yaks explode through the mist like sharks through surf. No warning, no distance, no time. Kruger yanks his stick back instinctively, hammering full throttle, supercharger whining. A Yak races past his canopy so close he sees frost on the pilot's goggles. Another German pilot, Lieutenant Franz Kohler, never even fires. A Yak-9, upgunned with a 37mm cannon, fires once. The massive shell blows the Bf-109's cockpit apart in a single violent flash. Canopy fragments spray outward like shattered ice. Kruger breaks left. Morozov, again Morozov, locks onto him from behind. Their altitudes barely clear the treetops. The Yak vibrates violently in the turbulence. Branches whip past below in green and white blurs. Kruger cuts throttle abruptly, forcing an overshoot. Morozov flashes past his wingtip. Kruger rolls inverted and dives, something like hope flaring in his chest. Then he realizes the Yak is diving with him. Not lagging, matching. The German ace feels the balance shift. The rules he has trusted for 3 years are breaking beneath him. Their speeds surge past 600 kilometers per hour. Airframes strain, rivets scream. The Yak's lighter structure quivers under the force, but it holds. At 200 meters altitude, Kruger pulls up violently, trying to force a stall. Morozov's Yak almost snaps in half. Almost. He eases just enough pressure to keep lift. The Yak hangs, weightless, between earth and sky. He fires at point-blank range. The Schwack rounds rip through the Messerschmitt's left wing root. The wing folds backward like wet cardboard. Kruger rolls once, twice, then disintegrates into the treetops, in a blossom of fire and splintered aluminum. The Soviets scatter upward. Radio traffic bursts with panicked German calls, breaking, cutting out, vanishing. In less than 4 minutes, the river sky is empty again. 2 days later, Soviet headquarters report. The file is thin. Enemy losses, 5 confirmed fighters destroyed. The political officer smiles at the numbers. Morozov does not. He sits outside his tent that night, smoking with shaking fingers, watching the northern lights flicker faintly above the smoke haze. He hears the German engines sometimes in his sleep now. Phantom sounds. Phantom dives. The Yak has become a killer. But killers do not sleep easily. And the Luftwaffe is about to answer. May 11th, 1944. 1,500 meters above the forests south of Polotsk. Spring creeps into the eastern front reluctantly. Snow retreats in dirty islands. Rivers swell with gray meltwater. The air is warmer, but no less deadly. 6 Bf-109 G6s move in a loose hunter's line abreast. Low, fast, aggressive. They belong to the 3 JG-54, one of the most decorated units in the Luftwaffe. These pilots are not beginners anymore. They have learned the lesson. Stay together, stay fast, never climb blind. At their center flies Oberfeldwebel Rolf Becker, age 28, 35 victories, butcher's son from Bremen. Not famous, not reckless, just lethal. Below them, hidden between the trees and the folds of the land, a Soviet forward radar van receives the blip. A raised voice, a ringing phone. Minutes later, the Yak-9s are already starting their engines. Soviet airstrip, Polotsk sector. Morozov and 3 others run for their aircraft. Their breath smokes in the mild air. Sergei pulls the chocks free and slaps the fuselage twice. "Bring it back," he mutters. Morozov does not answer. The engine catches on the second ignition cough. The Yak lunges forward like a freed animal. They lift off in staggered pairs, barely skimming the treetops before banking hard into a climbing turn. This time, the ambush comes from the side, not below. The Soviets level at 200 meters and slide beneath a band of low cloud. The air smells of rain. Becker is the first to sense it. The way the cloud bank moves wrong, the way shadow shifts against sunlight. Then green-gray wings burst from vapor, cannon already flashing. The first Yak targets the rear German element. The 20mm rounds stitch across a Messerschmitt's fuselage. The pilot bails instantly, parachute snapping open in a violent bloom. Becker yells into the radio, "Defensive circle! Keep speed!" The German formation compresses into a turning wheel of steel. Tracers weave across the sky in glowing arcs. Morozov dives into the storm. He picks Becker's aircraft by the way it moves, tight, precise, predatory, even in defense. The German does not panic. He anticipates. Their fighters spiral around each other at 400 kilometers per hour, descending in tightening coils. Oil pressure needles flicker. Coolant temperatures spike. Becker fires a burst. The rounds tear past Morozov's left wing, shaving paint, biting shallow grooves into the timber skin. Morozov counters with a climbing half roll, trying to get above. The Yak's nose-mounted cannon gives him an impossible advantage here. No convergence, no guessing. Where the propeller points, the shells go. Becker knows it. He dives instead, straight through his own formation, trusting his wingman's discipline. Morozov follows without hesitation. The sky becomes a cage of crossing fire. A Yak takes a hit to the wing and spins away, trailing fabric. A Messerschmitt erupts in a sudden yellow flame. Morozov's Yak shudders violently as a 13mm round punches through the radiator. Steam explodes over the canopy. Engine temperature climbs instantly. He has seconds. Becker spots it. He reverses cleanly, pulling into Morozov's vapor trail like a predator scent. The distance collapses. 300 meters. 200. Morozov's engine coughs. He pushes the throttle anyway. The VK-105PF screams in protest. At 150 meters, Becker fires. The Germans' rounds tear open the Yak's left horizontal stabilizer. The aircraft snaps violently nose up, nearly stalling. For one awful second, Morozov hangs helpless against the sky. Becher presses the trigger again. Nothing. His cannon jams. One mistake, one breath. Morozov forces the nose down through sheer muscle and gravity. He lines the German canopy in his shaking ring sight. The target fills his vision. One gun, one line, one moment. He fires. The 20mm shell enters just above Becker's instrument panel. The blast exits through the rear fuselage. The Bf-109 breaks apart in midair, wings flinging outward like torn paper. Pieces rain down through the melting spring clouds. Morozov does not cheer. Steam still floods his cockpit. The engine is dying. He cuts right, dropping toward friendly lines at treetop height, every second a gamble. The Yak shivers with each vibration. Behind him, the remaining German fighters disengage. They have lost their anchor. German radio traffic that evening. Oberfeldwebel Becker, missing. The word spreads fast. An ace is dead, killed at 1,000 meters by a Soviet fighter the Germans once dismissed as scrap. Back at the Soviet strip, Morozov lands on a sputtering engine that dies the moment his wheels touch dirt. Ground crew swarm the Yak. Sergei stares at the shredded stabilizer, at the scorched fuselage. He touches the wood gently. "You stayed together this time," he says. Morozov nods once. Later that night, Sokolov introduces a new directive pinned to the wall. Low altitude, no mercy. Do not climb to meet them. Let them fall into you. The Yak-9 is no longer reacting. It is setting the terms of the hunt. And soon, the Luftwaffe will send its finest to break it. June 7th, 1944. Dawn. 900 meters above the ruins of Bobruisk, Belarus. The city below is a skeleton. Brick ribs, gutted factories, shattered rail yards choked with twisted steel. Smoke hangs over it even at dawn, a permanent second sky. The Eastern Front is no longer a line. It is a grinding wound. 4 Yak-9s skim low over the wreckage, engines throttled back to reduce their noise. They weave between columns of smoke like sharks beneath dark water. Morozov leads the flight. He has 11 confirmed victories now. His name has begun to appear in briefings. The men recognize his walk. The political officer watches him closely. The mechanics treat his aircraft like a living talisman. But Morozov sleeps less with every kill. Ahead, Soviet ground forces prepare to advance through the ruins. German dive bombers are expected, Ju-87 Stukas protected by fighter escort. The Yak's mission is brutally simple. Kill the escorts. At 200 meters, high above the smoke layer, the Luftwaffe arrives. 6 Fu-190A8s, the butcher birds, wide-winged, heavily armored, bristling with cannons. Their BMW 801 radial engines thunder through the sky with a deep mechanical growl. They are not agile like the Messerschmitts. They are built to survive punishment and keep killing. And they are flown today by veterans. At their head, Major Heinrich Adler, age 35, 47 victories, veteran of North Africa, Sicily, Kursk. Known among his men as the Hammer, he believes in firepower over finesse. He believes the Yak is still breakable. Adler looks down at Bobruisk through his armored windscreen and smiles grimly. "Stay tight. They'll come up like insects." He is only half wrong. The Yaks climb in silence, hugging the smoke columns, using the fire-blackened air as cover. Oil temperatures rise. Sweat runs into Morozov's eyes. At 700 meters, they break out of the smoke directly below the German formation. Too close for long-range gunnery, too chaotic for perfect tactics, perfect for murder. Morozov shoves the throttle forward and pulls straight into Adler's underbelly. The Fu-190 pilots react instantly, rolling, diving, scattering their formation to avoid collision. The sky detonates into crossing fire. Cannon shells tear through smoke. Tracers rake the broken skyline. One Yak explodes mid-climb as a 20mm round finds its fuel tank. The pilot never radios. Morozov swings onto Adler's tail in a brutal turning fight. The Fu-190 resists like a wounded bear, powerful, stubborn, refusing to die. Its roll rate is terrifying. Adler snaps his aircraft left and right so violently, Morozov's gun sight blurs. A cannon burst from the Focke-Wulf rips through Morozov's right wing root. The Yak shivers. Structural warning vibrations climb through the airframe. Sergei's careful repairs tremble under German fire. Morozov doesn't pull away. He tightens the circle. At 300 meters altitude, Adler dives straight down between two shattered smokestacks. The Yak follows through the industrial canyon, wingtips missing brick by inches. Dust devours the sky. Adler pulls up violently behind the smokestack, trusting his armored cockpit and radial engine. Morozov pulls harder. The Yak's wooden wing screams. The airframe reaches the edge of what it can endure. For a fraction of a second, the FDU-190 fills Morozov's sight. Broad, armored, invulnerable. He fires. The Schwack shells chew into the German's wing root. Not enough to snap it, but enough to weaken it. Adler yanks into another snap roll. The weakened spar fails. The FW-190's left wing folds. The aircraft spins once, violently, then slams through a factory roof in a rising fireball that turns brick, steel, and human flesh into vapor. Morozov flies directly through the rolling fire plume. The cockpit fills with smoke. The Yak emerges blistered, scorched, alive. The fight ends minutes later. 2 Yak-9s destroyed. 4 German fighters gone. The remaining FW-190s flee west at full power, abandoning the Stukas to their fate. Below, Soviet troops watch black dots fall from the sky like burning snow. The ground offensive resumes under open, unchallenged sky. 3 days later, Luftwaffe Command, Minsk Sector. Adler's chair remains empty. Flight rosters shift. Mission leaders are no longer easy to replace. And a new word spreads through ready rooms in whispered, disgusted disbelief. Yak Snipers. That night, Soviet airstrip. Morozov sits alone on an ammunition crate, scrubbing soot from his knuckles. His hands still shake hours later. Sokolov approaches quietly and sits beside him. "You killed Adler today," the major says. Morozov nods once. "He was famous," Sokolov continues. "You will be too." Morozov looks at the dark outline of his yak under camouflage netting. "Fame does not fix wood," he says quietly. Sokolov almost smiles. Across the front, the balance is shifting. The Luftwaffe still has skill, still has firepower, still has legends. But at low altitude, where the tanks crawl, where the infantry bleeds, where the war is actually decided, the Yak now rules. And the Germans are preparing one last answer. July 22nd, 1944, 600 meters above the swamp forests near Baranovichi. Summer has turned the land into mud and steam. Mosquitoes cloud the air in black swarms. The heat presses into the cockpit like wet cloth. Visibility is deceptively clear. Blue sky above, green hell below. Today is different. Morozov feels it before a single enemy appears. His Yak-9 is newly patched again. Fresh wood gleams beneath thin camouflage paint. Sergei worked all night. The fuel tanks are full. The gun belts are fresh. The 20mm cannon is cleaned down to bare steel. Sokolov's orders were brief and unsettling. High-skill enemy expected. Bait group first, kill group follows. For the first time, the Soviets are setting a trap instead of springing one. Far above them, almost invisible against the high summer sun, 4 Bf-109 K4s cruise at 4,000 meters. Faster, more powerful than anything Morozov has faced before. These are not worn Eastern Front machines. These are late war predators. Refined engines, new propellers, maximum climb. And at their head flies a man the Yak pilots have only heard about in rumors. Hauptmann Ludwig Weiss, 31 years old. 56 confirmed victories. Survived Stalingrad, Kuban, Kursk, and 3 collisions. Known among German pilots as der Scharfrichter, the executioner. Weiss has studied Yak-9 wreckage personally. He knows its climb profile, its roll limits, its weak points in the wing spars. He has come to kill the myth himself. The bait flies first. 2 Yak-9s emerge from the forest line at 1,000 meters, deliberately careless, throttles high, climbing in open sky. Weiss sees them instantly. There, he says calmly, exactly as described. His formation breaks and dives from altitude in perfect synchronization, sun at their backs. The Messerschmitts fall like spears. Morozov and his 3 hidden wingmen are already moving, climbing hard through a separate smoke column to intercept from below and behind. For seconds, both traps develop at once. The air thickens with converging death. Weiss strikes first. He takes one bait yak head-on, fires once, and saws the Soviet fighter in half with a short, surgical burst. The wreckage vaporizes into flame. The second yak rolls away just in time, diving for cloud cover. Weiss smiles slightly. Then Morozov's flight erupts upward from beneath his formation. Even Weiss is caught off angle. Yak-9 slams a burst into a German wingman before the K-4 can roll. The Messerschmitt detonates mid-turn in a violent silver flash. The sky collapses into chaos. Morozov locks onto Weiss instantly. He does not know the German's name. He only knows how that aircraft moves, how it never wastes energy, never overcommits, never bleeds speed. They spiral downward in a tightening helix from 3,000 meters to 1,200 in under 20 seconds. Weiss cuts throttle suddenly, forcing Morozov to overshoot. For the first time in months, Morozov is outplayed. Weiss rolls inverted under him and fires upward. The 30mm shell clips the Yak's tail. The entire rear fuselage shudders violently. Morozov nearly blacks out as the aircraft whips around. Warning buffet shakes his bones. Weiss stays behind him, precise, patient, close. Now, the German ace murmurs. He squeezes the trigger again. The cannon jams. Again. Morozov doesn't know that. He only feels the sudden absence of fire. He snaps into a vertical climb with everything the VK-105 PF can give. The Yak screams upward at a suicidal angle. Fuel pressure drops. Manifold pressure screams red. The airspeed collapses. The Yak hangs. 1 second from stalling. Weiss pulls up after him, certain of the kill. That single choice seals his fate. At the apex of the climb, Morozov kicks full rudder and snaps the Yak sideways in a half-falling corkscrew. An ugly, desperate maneuver no flight manual would approve. The German overshoots by meters. Morozov drops in behind him. Distance, 90 meters. Weiss tries to dive. Too late. The Soviet gun sight settles. 1 gun, 1 chance, 1 breath. Morozov fires. The 20mm shell punches through the Messerschmitt's cockpit armor plate. Weiss's aircraft does not explode. It simply loses control. The nose dips gently. The propeller windmills. Then the Bf-109 falls in a long, silent glide into the swamp. No parachute ever appears. The remaining German pilot breaks and flees into cloud cover. The sky falls silent again. Below, the swamp closes over Weiss's remains without fire, without smoke, without witnesses. That evening, Soviet airstrip. No one cheers. When Morozov lands, his Yak nearly collapses from structural damage. The tail shudders. Hydraulic fluid leaks across the dirt. Sergei stares at the torn stabilizer and lowers his head. Sokolov approaches slowly. "You killed Weiss," he says quietly. Morozov removes his helmet. "Does the sky look different now?" he asks. Sokolov does not answer. That night, Morozov cannot sleep at all. He keeps seeing the Germans' aircraft falling without flame. Not burning, just falling. The Luftwaffe never sends another elite ace to hunt the Yak-9 at low altitude again. By August 1944, their losses are too severe. Their fuel too scarce. Their pilots too young. The laughter is gone from their briefings. The myth is dead. But the war is not. And Morozov will not survive it. Unscarred. October 14th, 1944. 100 meters above the outskirts of East Prussia. The war has crossed a border that once felt impossible. Autumn has turned the forests copper and black. Rain drags low clouds across the battlefield, like curtains being pulled open and closed over death. The air smells of wet leaves, oil smoke, and cordite. Morozov climbs through broken cloud with 2 wingmen on a ground attack intercept patrol. German aircraft are rare now, but they still come. Fast, desperate, razor-edged with the will to survive. Morozov has 27 confirmed victories. He feels older than his years. His hands ache in the cold. There is a pressure in his chest sometimes that no doctor has ever examined. Below him, Soviet armor is pushing west in long, muddy columns. Tracers loop lazily skyward from nervous gunners. Then the sky splits. 3 Fu-190F fighter bombers burst through the cloud layer in a shallow dive, rockets slung beneath their wings, aimed at the tank column. The Yaks react instantly. Morozov dives straight down through shattered vapor, engines screaming, the earth rushing up like a blade. A German pilot spots him too late and jettisons his rockets blind. Morozov fires. The Yak's cannon rips through the Focke-Wulf's fuselage. The engine disintegrates in midair. The aircraft folds inward, vanishing in a fireball barely 50 meters above the trees. His second wingman downs another German seconds later. The third Fu-190 tries to escape. Morozov pursues. They dive together through rain at full power. Skimming treetops so low the Yak's prop wash stirs leaves into a cyclone. The German fires blindly backward. Tracers flash past the canopy. Morozov closes to point-blank range. The Fu-190 suddenly banks hard over a village cemetery. White stone crosses flashing beneath the wings. Morozov follows. Too low, too steep, too fast. The Yak's left wing clips a tree crown. The impact is not explosive. It is a brutal tearing shock that rips half the wing away in a sound like breaking ice. The Yak snaps sideways. The cockpit becomes a hurricane. Morozov does not eject. There is no time. The fighter slams into the forest in a blast of mud, wood, and flame. The third German escapes into the cloud. That night, Field Hospital, East Prussia sector. Morozov wakes screaming. His left leg is shattered beyond repair. His ribs are crushed. His face is burned. For 3 days, the surgeons fight infection as fiercely as he once fought aircraft. On the 4th day, Sokolov stands at the foot of the bed. "You brought down 2 more today," the commander says. "Your last." Morozov stares at the ceiling cloth, dirty and sagging. "How many?" he whispers. 29 confirmed, Sokolov answers. "Probably more." Morozov closes his eyes. "Too many," he says. Sokolov does not argue. May 9th, 1945. Victory Day. Morozov listens to the cheering through an open hospital window in Kazan. Bells ring. People shout. Fireworks crack faintly in the distance. He cannot walk without a cane. He will never fly again. Sergei writes him once from the regiment. Just a short, scrawled note. "Your Yak was finally buried. I took the propeller hub for you. It did its job." Years later. 1964. A quiet airfield museum outside Minsk. A restored Yak-9D sits under bright lights, paint perfect, gun ports clean as if they have never fired. Children stand beneath its wings, pointing. Morozov walks slowly with a limp between the exhibits. A guide speaks proudly. This aircraft helped break the Luftwaffe's control of low-altitude airspace in 1944. German aces once laughed at it. Morozov reaches out and touches the leading edge of the wing. It is smooth now. Too smooth. A boy asks him softly, "Did you ever fly one?" Morozov looks at the cockpit a long time before answering. "Yes," he says. The boy's eyes widen. "Was it scary?" Morozov nods once. "Yes." He does not tell him about Weiss falling without fire. He does not tell him about Adler burning in a factory ruin. He does not tell him about Becker breaking apart in the spring sky. He does not tell him about Volkmann vanishing into cloud without a scream. He does not tell him how the Yak killed them all. Because the Yak is quiet now. Because the sky is quiet now. And because some legends are only meant to live where the engine noise never stops. Epilogue. On the Eastern Front, German pilots once laughed at the Yak-9. They called it crude. They called it weak. They called it a flying coffin. By 1944, it was the coffin for their best. Not through altitude, not through elegance, but through ambush, through climb, through a single cannon firing straight through the heart of the enemy. Predator became executioner, and the laughter ended in fire.